Welcome to the Eddie Live Podcast, episode number 278. I'm here with the team from ACTA Academy, Caroline and Kevin. How you guys doing?
Good. Thanks for having us.
Thank you guys for coming. Yes.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure. So, new entrepreneur life. How's that going so far?
You wear all of the hats
Right.
all at once,
Yes.
juggling every role.
Yeah.
I was just saying, if we went back January 1st, looking at our bingo cards this year, I would not have anything circled on my bingo card.
Okay.
So many things happening, and you just didn't expect one thing after another.
Mm-hmm.
But it's been a wild ride, and I wouldn't want to be anywhere else.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I think that everyone should try it at least, right? Give the entrepreneur thing a shot.
Yeah.
And you guys, it's the first time for you guys, right? So maybe before we dive into that, you guys can tell us a little bit about yourselves, a little bit about where you're from, upbringing type deal, and then we'll dive right into your business if that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah?
For sure.
Right.
So
All right.
I'm Caroline. I'm from Sacramento, California.
Okay.
Basically, our story starts with Kevin and I meeting at UC Berkeley 8
Okay.
years ago, and studying together and falling in love and all that wonderful stuff. And then basically just kind of from there talking a lot about what do we believe is education and what do we think you need to develop yourself and how do we grow. And
I love it.
we love learning and creative learning and stuff like that. And there's a lot of iterations that we went through year by year, challenges that we went through and stuff, but just a bit about myself personally. I ended up studying political economy and global
Okay.
studies at UC Berkeley, and
UC Berkeley.
was a paralegal for 3 years and kind of trying out
Wow.
law for a bit before, committing to law school essentially, and
a big
found
commitment.
out, I really didn't like it.
Okay.
It wasn't really the career path for myself, and I'm really grateful that I had that experience. Learned a lot about running an office and office life
Awesome.
and corporate life, but something still felt like it was missing.
Yeah.
There was still something that felt not dynamic enough or interesting enough or creative enough, and then I think that kind of weaves into Kevin and where you were at, actually.
Yeah, so for me, I actually grew up here in Tiamu. I went to Taipei American School,
Nice.
graduated there, and then went on to UC Berkeley. That's where I met Caroline.
Yeah.
And at UC Berkeley, I studied cognitive science, sociology, political economy, 3 majors, and I minored in education as well.
Oh, man. Super smart. Smart couple here, you guys.
He's
Wow.
a genius.
Wow.
No.
Okay.
It's just I like to read the rules and how to get around those rules and how to
We
get
need
the
that.
most done with the least amount of effort.
Hey,
so
that-
how do I take this class and make it cover the other major and that kind of stuff. So playing around with that was really fun for me, and obviously I enjoyed the classes. Within my kind of discipline of cognitive science, sociology, political economy, and education, you can kind of see a pattern of my interest in how we process information, how we think, how we communicate ideas. So cognitive science, for those that don't know, is kind of like psychology. It's about how we think, but specifically how information is processed within the brain. Like, psychology doesn't really talk about, for example, how our eyes see color or how our ears hear sound, right? And then cognitive science is more about how the individual kind of process information.
Okay.
And then as I was in Cog-Sci, I realized, this blends naturally into education, right?
Okay.
We're talking about how we process information. Education is about that conveying of information. Mm-hmm. And then sociology is how groups think on a group level, right? And then as I continue into sociology, I realized, I can't talk about sociology on how groups think if I don't go into political economy, which
Okay.
is econ and law, and how those things influence the groups.
Okay.
So when it all came down, it became kind of Cog-Sci is the individual level, sociology is the group level, political economy is the meta level, and then education is the how do you actually impact the way we think.
Like the implementation
Yes,
kind of part. Okay.
exactly.
Okay, woo, that's a lot, man.
He
Wow,
dove
you're a
in.
smart guy. Okay. No, that's great. That's great. And so, what made you guys want to come back here? So you're from here.
Yeah.
So what was the idea with you guys? Are like, hey, let's come back.
Yeah,
Let's go back to Taiwan.
So we actually did long distance for 2.5 years during COVID.
Okay.
Yeah.
I hopped on basically the last flight back to Taipei. Quite literally.
Quite
I was on the
literally.
runway out of SFO, and I get the text that Bay Area is in lockdown. And
Wow,
so
okay.
I'm in Taipei, and she's back in California, and
Yeah.
we didn't know it was going to be 2.5 years.
That's
right?
crazy.
We really just thought it was going to be next month and
Yeah.
maybe 2 months, and then a little bit later it's like, oh, okay, 6 months, and at that point it was like a year and a half in.
That's crazy.
You know, and we ultimately did 2.5 years long distance,
Like
without ever
nonstop.
like seeing each other in person in between.
That's so
Yeah.
tough. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
tough.
But I think it also, life timing wise,
Mm-hmm.
it was funny enough the best timing where we had already been together. We already had a foundation.
Okay.
And it was like I had that anchor in Kevin of like emotional support, but then I also had my space and distance to like figure out my own stuff
Yep.
and
Yep.
figure out what I don't like and what I do
same
like
here.
and discover those kinds of things. And then, like you said, what brought us back to Taiwan is like when we came back, like our paths converged once more, it became this question of, well, you've been teaching for the past few years in Taiwan and you have some new ideas about what could education look like for the next generation.
I love that. Yeah.
Is that feasible in the States or is that feasible in
Yeah.
Taiwan?
Okay. Okay.
And I was ready to kind of take a leap of faith, and I really believed in what you were talking about, and we debate together a lot
That's awesome.
with these ideas. So, you know, I was very much on board with it. And so when we talked about where could we start this, U.S. or Taiwan, Taiwan just felt like there was more possibility and opportunity for
Okay.
this kind of new education.
And why would Taiwan be better
Yeah.
for that, in your opinion?
First
I
of
know
all,
education is super important.
Yeah.
You know, but what you think?
I think one of the big things is that being in Taiwan for me is I'm familiar with kind of the environment of students that want to go to the
the
States
US, yeah,
or
a
just
lot.
abroad in general, like the international student environment. I think being in the States, first of all, just the startup costs would be so much higher, right? And if you were to choose one location, say Sacramento, where she's from, that's not necessarily the most dense place where you would have a lot of demand for that kind of education. You know, you would have typically the public school education systems or the private school or even the charter schools, but that environment isn't necessarily conducive to, you know, starting an education-related business, especially if you focus on teaching and not ed tech.
Okay.
And I feel like coming back to Taiwan also, it's being close to my family and like having that kind of support and also just like in an environment overall where we get to like build a community like this.
Yeah.
We're very excited to just be here to do that.
And for me, I feel like Taipei is very alive. I think it's a very alive city for me, especially coming from a more suburban area.
Gotcha.
I think we talked a lot about where you are from,
did, yes,
and
yes,
I
very
related
small.
to a lot about it being very small or secluded, and it just felt like, what's changed? Oh, I came back and not much.
Yeah. It's true.
Whereas I don't know. I think just the community we've built, and I feel like we found so many other creative thinkers in Taipei, and it's been really easy to connect with people on that level of like, we have a lot of new ideas and people are open to it, but at the same time we have our kind of like values that we have and the traditions, and they're still kind
Nice.
of important. And I'm Ukrainian, so I really value that traditional aspect as well.
Yeah.
So
Beautiful.
yeah, it was a really good blend
Okay.
of this new wave and also like the old together.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Taiwan, obviously, education is super important.
Yes.
Almost to like the extreme of like, for example, my daughter's in junior high, and it'll be like a 10 or a 12-hour day by the time she's done all her stuff, which is kind of crazy. So what's your opinion? Like, how would you change that, or how do you wish to change something like that?
So, you want me to do it?
No, you go.
Okay, so funny. I think like
Yeah.
for us, ACTA Academy, our slogan is "We teach what schools don't."
Beautiful. Okay. I
So
like that.
right off the bat, we focus on anything that is not test related. In
Okay.
fact, most of the things we teach are not necessarily quantifiable.
Okay.
And what we mean by that is we want to focus on filling in the gaps that schools, often overlook because they have all these things that they have to meet, right? The curriculum demands STEM. You have to take these tests. In local schools, you have your local tests to get into universities. But in international schools, you have SATs and IBs and APs. But what we're focusing on more is, the fundamental skills, for example, reading. How do you read effectively, meaning can you glance a page and actually accurately deduct and infer information? Okay, and the other part is actually the philosophy part, which is why am I here? What am I doing? What's my role? Why am I happy or unhappy? And what can I do about it?
Okay.
Right, so giving that ability of self-awareness back into the students, like empowering them to recognize their own situation, I think is the first step to actually not necessarily change everything all of a sudden or start a revolution, but actually you can make your situation just a little bit more tolerable.
Okay.
Right, and that's the first step to actually changing life for the better for yourself.
Love that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I take a storytelling approach to it. It's still kind of related to philosophy, but in the essence of okay, we're all our personal heroes of our own stories.
Yep.
How do I find agency within my story and within the role that I want to play?
Okay.
Society's going to give me all these roles to play: the daughter, the student, the friend, all of these things. First of all, do I like the role I'm being assigned? Can I make that role something I do enjoy and something I excel at? And how do I change that? What can I do? And so I actually take the creative writing approach with my students, where they're writing short stories with me and they're creating a hero and going on the hero's journey, which is like Joseph Campbell, essentially, that you go from the known world into the unknown and bring something back into the known.
Okay.
And so that is just kind of a metaphor for what students are going through. We still all go through it every year, honestly, but I think making them aware that there's a greater arc to their story, essentially, and that you have agency within that, and how can you create, and also don't shy away from conflict. Conflict is actually growth.
Okay,
So
sure.
we were talking a bit about Taiwanese schools. I've noticed this drive for perfection within a lot of students without an allowance for mistakes or failures. They're quite fearful of making a mistake, and instead my goal or my role as a teacher is to actually encourage the failures and show how do you grow from that and how is that a learning experience, not a humiliating or embarrassing moment that you need to be scared of.
Beautiful. Love that. Yeah. And how important do you think communication, teaching effective communication to children is, or to students, to anyone really?
I think
so important.
I mean, in terms of communication, that's half of everything in your life, right?
But I think relating to ACTA, the letters themselves actually.
Oh, beautiful. Tell me about that.
So first of all, the letters themselves, ACTA, they relate to what we kind of identify as the 4 pillars that we just kind of need to change. How do you change things, or how do you change yourself or your community, or anyways? And so A is for awareness. And so first of all, awareness of yourself, awareness of what you're feeling. How do you understand your situation and
recognizing what's going on.
Exactly. And then
Beautiful.
next for that is C, creativity.
Okay.
So creative problem solving, creative solutions, art, writing, everything.
Thinking outside the box as well.
Beautiful.
Creativity.
Okay.
And then next is T for teamwork. I don't think that you do change to a certain point by yourself, but I don't think you can make those huge leaps without people supporting you and without a community behind you.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
And that's also where communication comes in, right?
Yeah.
Teamwork could just be as simple as communicating with their parents. Hey, I feel this.
Yeah.
Right. And then maybe your parents could come up with something and say, okay, could we do something to make the situation better?
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
That already in itself could be teamwork.
Yeah.
Right. And then the last letter.
A for action. So
Okay.
next is just taking action. So the steps go through awareness, creativity, teamwork, and action. And how do you actually, create change in your life, or create change starting from yourself and then going into your community or your household or just your family. And it's all just sort of these building blocks that we find that we went through this process.
Okay.
And then
Okay.
what does it take to guide other students or, you know, just other community members through this process too with what we offer at ACTA.
Okay, I
Yeah.
love that. The 4 pillars. That sounds
Yeah.
great. Yeah, yeah. How's the philosophy of play sort of fit into this playing? Sort of learning? Yeah. Tell me about that.
Perfect. So
Yes,
I
please.
kind of maybe did this backwards a little bit. The letters came after
Okay. Yeah.
play. ACTA's Latin for play, and it
Okay.
comes from, I believe, a Roman emperor who said at his deathbed. I mean, this was a long time ago, so
Should've
it's not
played
true.
more, he said.
Yeah, that's exactly it. No, he said, "Acta est finite, applaud,
Oh.
applaud." So the play is finished, applaud at the end of his life.
Okay.
And so we took it as a bit of a play on words, that it means
There you go.
play, as in life is a play. We are kind of putting on a show
Yeah.
throughout our lives. Like I said, back to the
Love
idea
that.
that we have roles to
Yeah.
play. But also, really important is life is play. It is about having fun with it. I don't
Should enjoy it.
Yeah,
Hopefully,
exactly.
right?
It doesn't have to be so serious all the
Yeah.
time either. You can play with the cards that you're given and see
Yep.
how they stack up. And so we want to learning for us is fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why he did 3 majors and a minor, and I did 2 majors and a minor. Like, we really loved learning at university, and just even after that, like the certificates and the classes we've continued to take and stuff like that, like learning is fun.
Okay.
How can we bring that into the classroom and
How-
also
How
into
can
life?
you?
Yeah.
How can you make learning fun in Taiwan? Because I know that it's not usually encouraged that much.
Yeah.
I live here,
Yeah.
right? My daughter goes to school here, and you know she likes school, but now that she's into junior high, it's like, oof, it's next level. So how can we kind of do that? Fun, make learning fun.
I think in a lot of ways, learning has become a bit of a punishment with school sometimes.
Agree.
Like you're being punished, you
Yep.
have to learn. And so it comes back to that feeling of agency and how do
Yep.
I take agency in my learning? And how and I think a big thing that Kevin does is just asking more questions of the student where they get to have a bit of they get to think for themselves.
Yeah.
And that creates a bit of a thirst for knowledge once they're
Okay.
like, oh, I don't actually have all the answers.
Let me
And
find
it's
them.
okay that I don't. Yeah, and
Okay.
I can discover, I can learn
Beautiful.
a bit more.
I
love that.
think my view of things is that learning is fun.
Yeah.
Fundamentally, like you put a child in a room and they're gonna do something fun.
Yeah.
Like
Okay.
forget the child. Like put myself in a room. I'm gonna
Yeah.
try to do something fun for myself, right?
Yeah.
And so the desire to play is quite embedded and inherent, I think, in human beings.
Yeah.
And so the way I view the problem isn't necessarily how to make learning fun. Is how do you make the unfun parts, get it out of the way, and to bring that learning, the essence of learning, back into where it's supposed to be, which is you're driven by a curiosity.
Yeah.
Right. And that curiosity is, it's the fire that lights the thing in yourself where it's like, why am I unsatisfied, and how can I make it satisfying for myself?
Okay.
Right. And so for our classes, a lot of times it might be a reading class. At least I teach critical reading, and the class is more of an intense kind of English class for reading. But through the reading process, I actually slide in a lot of the philosophy part, which is, the reading might talk about happiness or freedom or these things that you can actually put yourself in those roles and actually, try that function or try that equation and see, okay, hold on. I don't think I see what the problem is here in this character. Oh, I can relate to that. And then now you can start taking steps to for your own adventure.
Okay, that's cool. I like that. Yeah. So lifelong learning should be fun, right? So, like I said, in some places it's not. Some even in Canada. I went to school in Canada, and I think it really depends on your teacher. A lot have had probably 5, maybe less, like amazing teachers out of hundreds. So how can you be that teacher, like the one that's like, all right, I'm gonna make you like to read. It's not gonna be like, oh, you failed your test, read this book,
Yeah.
read for 2 hours a day. So how
Yeah.
can we transition like the punishment to this is fun. I like this.
Part of it, you know, is also institutional, right? Like as a teacher, if I were to be a teacher at a local school, I would have these KPIs that I need to hit, right?
Sure,
These
okay.
tests I need to do. And my performance is predicated on how well the student do on the test, which in itself kind of handicaps my level of creativity.
Gotcha.
Which is part of the reason why we want to do something that is more private and on
Yeah.
our own terms, which allows us to actually incorporate a lot of that fun part because we have more freedom to do so. The other part about, how can you be that teacher? I think, in my experience, you can't be that teacher for every student.
Sure.
And it just might not even be the fact that wrong timing, right person kind of thing too.
Okay.
And I've had experiences where the student seems like they hate my class.
Okay.
They're kind of just signed up by their mom and they're like, here.
I've had that. Yeah.
But then, years later, they come back and say like, actually, I really enjoy your class. And in retrospect, I finally understand what you're talking about back then. It could be like several years and they're in college already. But it's like, hey, Kevin, I finally get what you were saying back then in that reading class. But, I think that's part of the point where it's like, you don't have to be the amazing teacher that inspires every single student, but you do have to be really into what you're doing. And I think that fundamentally filters through for the students to feel.
Yeah.
Okay.
I guess I'll just add on a little bit. So
Please do.
I teach more younger students. So
Okay.
my age group is more like 7 to 12,
Gotcha.
6 to 12. And the biggest learning experience for me is that they can feel when you're present and when you're not.
Yeah.
I love
And they
that,
can
yeah.
feel when you are trying to hit a goal that you have for the class
Okay.
versus being there with them through whatever they're struggling with or whatever their mind, the path their mind is taking. And that's going back to what you kind of said about institutional, because we're doing it more as a one-on-one class basis, I can take the time to have tangents that I can take the time to follow them saying, I don't know, I feel like what if my hero like falls into a hole and then there's like a whole monster down there and I'm like, that's not what the story's about. You told me the story's gonna be about you fighting a dragon.
Okay.
And then we
Nice.
can it's like, no, we can go down this new path that they suddenly created because something about that was interesting to them.
Okay.
And so then for me it's about being present with that student step by step in that process.
Nice.
And then they feel that energy more than they feel me having to finish the story with them in a certain amount of time.
Okay.
And that's the kind of flexibility that we have with the way that
That's
we're doing
great.
things. And
Yeah.
so I think that to me is the most important part, like especially young kids.
Yeah.
It's like energy
It's
management.
fun. Yeah. When I taught kindergarten, it was
Yeah.
the most fun.
Yeah.
But at like 5, I would just I need like a nap.
Yes.
Even in my 20s, I'm like, I need to take 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like a class in energy management,
Yeah.
but they feel when you're there with them and they feel when you're not.
That's so cool.
100%.
Yeah.
I love that. We have a comment real quick here.
Okay, cool.
They should take one of my Montessori workshops when I get them going again. So how is
Cool.
Montessori something? It's like I don't know much about that. It's like is it a similar thing, a Montessori sort of
Yeah.
thing? Yeah.
Creative
Yeah.
Okay.
learning for sure.
Is
You go
it?
take
I'm
it.
definitely not an expert with Montessori,
Yeah.
but
Okay.
based on what I know, it's like that. It's like a
Similar?
playground
Okay.
concept where you let the kids explore and discover
Okay.
what they want. So I would love to. We would
Yeah.
love to do that.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. You guys are still learning, always
Yeah.
learning, always
100%.
upping the game, right? Which is
Yeah.
awesome. I mean, I'm probably twice your age. I'm still learning. You got to keep going, right?
Absolutely.
So, storytelling, self-exploration, Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Tell me about that. Tell me about that. That's so cool.
No, okay.
That's cool.
It-
That's great.
It's
You're
just-
gonna just out her like this.
I know. I feel
That's bad. No, I thought it was on there.
It was.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
So, I mean, for anyone who doesn't know, Dungeons and Dragons is a tabletop
Yeah.
role-playing
It's fun.
game.
Yeah.
You basically create a character, like a hero. Think of like a Tolkien, Lord of the
Yes.
Rings
That's
type
awesome.
of character. You can be an elf or a dwarf or human. Archer, magic, mage, whatever you want. And you just get some dice. You get one person who's called a dungeon master, and they
Awesome.
are your kind of world that you play in. They're all the other characters, and they kind of create the challenges. And you just role play, and you get to it's collaborative storytelling.
So cool.
And so I got introduced to this kind of world of Dungeons and Dragons maybe 5 or 6 years ago.
Okay.
A bit earlier than that. But then I started really playing more with my friends, actually my elementary school friends. We reconnected
That's
as
so cool.
adults,
Yeah.
and we play, and it was just the most fun of my week.
Okay.
Because you get
Looking
to
forward
step
to it.
into another
Yeah.
person character, you create a backstory, and it's not you, but it's kind of you. There's still bits and pieces of you, and
Yeah.
you get to tell a story together, and your
Okay.
decisions are going to impact the whole trajectory of this fantasy universe. And so then I got to thinking, like, I started playing more D&D, and then I started playing more D&D
That's
with
awesome.
other groups,
Yeah.
more and more. And then actually what ended up happening was I have a little brother. He's only 12 right now.
Mm-hmm.
And as a way to stay connected with him while I'm in Taiwan and he's in California, we started playing D&D over
That's awesome.
online.
I love that.
And it was just me and him, and I started playing these quests and like fantasy storylines with him, and I started to think about, like, I really think that Dungeons and Dragons can be a vehicle for kids to one, express themselves, two, step into a character that's not themselves. They have
Yeah.
to think differently
Love
and
it.
figure out how to creatively problem solve and be someone else, and then also practice English and be speaking and like have negotiations between
Yeah.
not just me but with another player.
Okay.
They have to negotiate with like the characters I put in front of them. They have to use their environment and
It's
use
teaching
their
communication,
Yeah,
right?
there's so much like like problem solving and negotiation, and just a lot of goes into it being this character. And so I kind of told Kevin, I was like, I don't see this happening anywhere in Taiwan, but the
Yeah,
whole
I
idea
haven't
that
seen it. Yeah,
the whole
I haven't seen
idea
it.
of it of ACTA is creative learning and doing things that are not exactly by the book, or
Okay.
not exactly institutional, I guess you might
Yeah.
say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And slowly, I'm seeing more interest in it.
And
Basically,
you've done some
Yeah.
some classes and stuff with
Yes.
it. And how's the
Yeah.
response been?
It's been good. I
Yeah?
do find that I think it's actually pretty powerful, because what I know, what I'm understanding a bit more, like I guess on the environment or the landscape of learning in Taiwan, especially with my younger kids, is they're
Yeah.
really shy to speak.
Yes, that's true.
And
Yeah,
they
yeah.
are really scared of, like I said before, like making mistakes.
They're scared to
They're
make a mistake.
so
Yeah.
scared.
Yeah.
And then suddenly you rolled a dice and you failed.
Yeah.
yeah.
And you rolled a natural one.
Yeah.
You failed.
Yeah.
How do we, and then I get to tell them, what do you do?
Yeah.
And then
Okay.
they get to be like, I
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't hit the thing. And then
How do you process failure?
Yeah,
How do
and
you
we-
come up with something to deal with
Exactly.
it? How do you process the emotional feelings that come with that?
Okay.
Yeah, and they learn to roll with the punches,
Okay.
and they learn that nothing
Super
that
important.
bad happened. You might have slipped on the mud while you were trying to swing your sword, and you
Yep.
fell flat on your face, but you got up. You're
Yeah.
fine. You still defeated the giant evil frog. That's what they're fighting right now.
important.
They're fighting frogs.
Okay. Okay. That's great.
But and so it's just been this really fun experiment for me. How has this hobby that I grew really strongly part of in the past like 4 or 5 years, and then how is that actually going to be a vehicle or a tool for kids here to
Awesome.
learn about themselves and to just become more confident. I think
Yeah.
that's been a
Yeah,
big
that's
mission
huge.
I've been feeling, is like confidence.
That's
Yeah.
cute. That's
Yeah.
huge. Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember one of the last group of kids I taught was a few years ago, and they just wouldn't speak. And then I brought like Settlers of Catan, and I'm like, I'm going to teach you guys how to play this. And then they're just like arguing for like, no, why would I give you two wheats for one sheep? And I'm like, oh, as long as you do it in English, it's all good. Yeah. So it's so fun. Yeah,
exactly.
I love that. Yeah.
I gave them their first taste of betrayal,
Okay.
and they got so angry and
Yeah.
furious. And I was like, "How do you feel?" And they're like, "I feel mad."
I hate you now. Yeah, it's
I
so
was like,
good.
Yes.
It's great.
Good.
It's great. You know, you got to have that because, it's going to happen in real life.
Yeah.
So if it happens in a little game, it's a little easier to absorb when it happens in real life. I love that. So cool. And so, Kevin, what about the focus of critical reading and sort of your film learning programs? Tell me about that.
Yeah. So two things: critical reading and then film school Taipei. Right.
Yes.
Critical reading is it kind of started as like a question for myself, which is. I was an ESL student. I absolutely hated reading throughout high school. And it was only until I got to college where I was actually reading more social sciences, more sociology, philosophy, stuff that I liked, that I started reading, actually because I wanted to get the knowledge. And along with good professors that showed me kind of the way to digest the text, it was quite, I think, life-changing, to be honest.
Okay.
And when I came back to Taiwan, I was asking myself, okay, kids have to take SAT, but before that, you're kind of in a role where people assume you can read because you speak English, but you're put in SAT, but your score's just kind of stuck there.
Okay.
Or SAT has this thing where you take it and then you kind of there's no other use outside of it. And so I wanted to be more useful where you can learn to read, and that will help with the SATs. It will help with the testing, but it will actually help with college and beyond, and just regular old living. And so critical reading was that class that I came up with to help the kids basically not only learn the basics of how do you read effectively, right? On a page of just English words, they're all printed on, font 12, Times New Roman.
Okay.
But not every single word have the same weight in terms of how much information it holds.
Okay.
And, you have 3 paragraphs, 4 paragraphs on a page. Which paragraph is the most important?
Okay.
And which sentence in that paragraph is the most important? And then which word can actually give you the most information?
Okay.
And I teach the kids to apply the 80-20 rule as well.
Gotcha.
Right? 80% of this is mostly fluff, but if you can capture 20%, you're going to get 80% of what the book is trying to tell you.
Okay.
And so critical reading is that class where you get the mechanics of reading.
Okay.
But also through that process of reading, you actually get a lot more about philosophy, which is, you get the tools to think about your own predicament.
Okay.
That's more of the intensive reading class for high school students. And then Film School Taipei is my version of play, I would say.
Okay. Everyone has a different version. Yeah.
Right. Reading I also find really fun, but then the play part is film school. I taught myself how to make films when I was at Berkeley because I was the only guy with the camera at the Taiwanese Student Association.
Awesome.
And every
so
year they had like a short film that they shoot.
Okay.
But I was the only guy with the camera, so I was like, hey, do you want to record the video? And so I'm like, sure. And I started just, going on YouTube, going on all these different places, getting the equipment I need. So from cinematography, I kind of learned how to, I realized I needed to capture audio, so you learn a bit of audio, and then you have to naturally go into editing. As you're editing, you realize, I could have done better direction here. And as a director, you kind of learn, screenwriting, right? Like, how do you prepare the ideas? How do you get everybody on board? So I realized filmmaking is a great way to learn kind of a whole suite of skills. Not only the hardware of like, XLR cables running to here, the HDMI, and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. But also the soft skills of like, how do you create a vision? How do you communicate that vision? How do you get the team on board to like, do this short film together?
That's great.
Yeah, and so
you're not going to mention DKA? You were okay.
Yeah. So when I was at Berkeley, I just realized I really enjoyed filmmaking, and that was Taiwanese Student Association. But I wanted more. And at Berkeley, there was only the film studies, not really a film production major.
Okay.
Otherwise, maybe 4 major. No. So I joined this. At the time, it was called a fraternity, Delta Kappa Alpha, which is a co-ed cinematic arts professional.
Wow.
Fraternity.
That's cool.
But it was co-ed, so
it's not really a fraternity.
It's a society now. They rebranded. But
really, is that canceled? The fraternities are not a thing anymore.
It's just never been for a guy. It was a guy only thing in like the 70s, but then it's been like co-ed for like the longest time.
Yeah.
Like Canada doesn't have them, I don't think. So we have no idea.
Yeah.
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 I don't really know, but I really
Once it goes
just
co-ed, it's not a fraternity.
Yeah,
So they had to
yeah.
eventually change something because it's
Yeah.
a misleading title.
Yeah.
that's the way to put it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, DK was like that space where I learned all the soft skills of like,
Yeah.
oh, you know, here's an idea. How do we pitch it? How do we fundraise? How do we run this project? Who's the director? Who's the sound guy? Who's the editor? And there was a branch of it, which is DK Productions that I was part of. And I became the business chair for it. And I did a lot of the business side of things.
Okay,
And I
great.
realized, wow, you know, like filmmaking is such a cool tool to have to tell stories, but
Yeah.
also you could like actually live off of this. You know, might not be very, very wealthy doing this, but like it's a cool ability to just have hardware, software, and like all the in betweens. And so coming back to Taiwan, I had that skill, right? And I was
great.
really just into doing videos, and you know, just running critical reading. I would like shoot films for it. I would do like a critical reading online, and someone somehow heard that I did film, and they needed college applications, and they needed help with applying for film schools in the States.
Oh, beauty.
And so
Nice.
I helped out, you know, with shooting the films and like coming up with the pre-production, but also I realized like, oh, you know what? Like if people are interested in this, I'm really, really into teaching, and I would love to teach the filmmaking aspect of things.
Nice.
Right, and we have Film School Taipei kind of as like a spread of, you know, if you have zero experience, you could come in and you can learn from how to use a camera, how to expose properly, how to get your sound properly, how to edit, how to, you know, write screenplays, which goes into creative writing.
Yeah.
You know, how to submit for film festivals, all the way to Project X, which is if you have the skills and you need it for college admissions for like your school portfolio.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like a whole suite of
Okay.
things.
Yeah.
And is that for kids or for adults or for anyone like that wants to learn kind of film?
Mostly for kids, mostly for I
Okay.
think middle school to high school. But obviously we have a lot of freedom, and we're like very flexible with working
great.
with adults as well.
I think because my daughter would love that. I mean, we would actually both like that because we do a lot of like recording and stuff. And it's funny that I interview like a lot of big YouTubers, like
Yeah.
100, 150,000, 300,000 subs, 500,000 subs. And I'm like, you know, I want to line everything up, all the cameras and the mics and stuff. And so when they come, we do like, I'll interview them and then they'll interview me, right?
Yeah.
For each other's channel, like a collab. And they come in with like an iPhone 13, like, and they're recording. And I'm like, you got like 500,000 subs with
Yeah.
an iPhone 13. And they're just, it's kind of crazy how that works.
Yeah.
Yeah. So crazy.
Yeah, I think like we all have just amazing cameras in our pockets,
Yeah.
and then it just comes down to what stories do you have to tell,
Yeah.
and how can you execute that. And so with what Caroline's doing with the storytelling is kind of excavating that. We're like getting the dust off of being ready to just tell a story,
Okay.
right? And then I think Film School Taipei is the skills of like how do you deliver that story in a
Beautiful.
medium.
I love
Yeah.
that. I love that. And so ACTA serves like as a multifunctional kind of a space, right?
Yeah.
So you guys do you do your classes and stuff there.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit more about some of the other stuff that you guys do. I know that there's yoga, and I know that there's a whole bunch of other stuff that you guys do. So tell me a
Yeah.
little about that.
Because we have those 4 pillars, what
Yeah.
we wanted was for it to be a container where no matter what we do, it's going to relate to one of those things, and then we always have justification for doing it. There's always a justification and a validation, like, oh, that's related to awareness, that's related to creativity,
I
that's
love that.
related to action. Oh yeah, it fits under the umbrella, and that gives us a lot of freedom, which is what I think really drives us. I learned very quickly living as a paralegal in the office that I
Oh, yeah.
can't do the same thing every single day. I really want a dynamic creative life,
Nice.
and that's what this like allows us to have. And so from like the get-go, we were like, we want to open the space up for collaboration with other
Beautiful.
people, with other organizations, like with our friends who we have many creative friends who are musicians and things like that. And so
Nice.
we just essentially, because it's about learning and creative learning, and we say we kind of, Kevin and I tackle like the little kid stuff, but then we also, have stuff for the big kids, which is
Yeah.
us adults.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
so I'm a yoga teacher, so I teach
That's
just
great.
free yoga classes there.
That's amazing.
Taking a break right now, but
Yeah,
gonna
no,
start again
no.
next year. But that was over summer. We've collaborated with a local music school called Blast Up, and we have kids concerts
Oh, I
there
know it.
every
Yeah.
other. Yeah, they
Okay.
moved around a
They
little
moved
bit in
recently.
TMU.
Yeah, yeah.
But they've been doing
Their weekend concerts.
their weekend
at
concerts
ACTA.
at ACTA,
Cool.
basically,
That's
and so the
awesome.
space has a lot of young kids right
Yeah.
now. Every other Sunday.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
One of our friends, Winnie,
Yeah.
hosted a tango concert there
Yes.
with a
Okay.
live band and
Beautiful.
tango
It was so
teachers
cool. Yes.
that taught you how to do basic tango.
Yeah.
And
That's cool.
you get to watch the performance. It was just an amazing kind of combination of the space, the four pillars of what we want to do, and having fun.
Yep.
And right now, actually, at ACTA, we have an art exhibition.
Yes. Tell me about that. Yes.
So we have this art exhibition from a Korean artist from Busan. Her name is Hyunju. We actually met her when we went to Busan to just like have fun, right? And we actually walked around the artist street. It's kind of like Taipei, Dijia,
Okay.
like underground mall.
Yeah, yeah.
And we were just so captured by her art that, we have never bought any art, and she became the first artist we ever bought
Oh,
from.
that's great.
Like
Okay.
a real painting.
Okay.
And we just kept in touch because we just loved her stuff so much.
Uh-huh.
And with this space, we were like, man, what if we had her art hung up on the wall? We
So
can invite
cool.
people to come. We can have class with her
Yes.
art around the walls.
Beautiful.
And that would be a dream come true. And so we asked her, and she said yes.
That's amazing.
And so now it's happening, and it's just like an amazing thing, amazing feeling where you're in the room, you're sitting there with students who are teaching critical reading or D&D, and there's literally beautiful paintings just hanging on the wall.
That's beautiful.
Right.
I think it adds so much energy to that environment and to that space, and you really feel like even one of the things that Kevin and I talked about was we don't want to just be another cram school.
Yeah.
Yeah, I understand.
We don't want
Yeah,
it to
yeah.
be closed classrooms where students are just kind of locked in a jail cell.
Locked in jail. Yeah, no, I know. I taught at some of those before.
And
yeah,
it's like,
crazy.
I understand the necessity for them. I get what's coming from, but it was just that's not what our energy is. It's not what we want to be. And so we wanted to have that open space, but at the same time, with the art around it, I think
Yeah.
it just transforms it so much, and it
Yeah.
lets students feel like I'm living in a fairy tale.
Yeah.
If you look at her art, it's all these really crooked, wavy buildings, and then little
Okay.
geese that are living human lives,
Yeah.
living everyday stuff, and it's really fantastical and fun.
Okay. Yeah, it
and,
should be, right?
And it
Yeah.
just fits so well, and so it's really cool to see that happen, because when we visited her last year, that was not something that was in our minds.
Okay.
ACTA was not even an idea yet at
Okay.
that point.
Yeah.
And so to have it sort of connect in that
Yeah.
way, hindsight, it was wow.
Okay.
Very cool how synchronicity and fate works.
And so you mentioned cram schools,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So obviously ACTA is very different than that. So if someone was to come up and ask you, like a Taiwanese customer saying, hey,
Mm-hmm.
I'm interested, how are you different from a cram school, like a local cram school?
I think
What-
it comes back a little bit to what Kevin was saying, was we focus on the things that are not being tested.
Okay.
We focus on foundational understanding and kind of elevating students' understanding of English and understanding their elevating of text or their writing, while at the same time having them be more self-reflective. And it's not for everyone. I have realized it's a bit of a niche market.
Understand. Yeah, I understand that.
But then the people who do find us and the people who do vibe with what we are about,
Yeah.
they really do get it.
okay.
Yeah.
They're the parents that are oh, that's what I felt was missing in my child's education. I get what you're trying to do.
And that's your target market too, right?
Exactly.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it doesn't have to be for everyone. And,
Yeah.
and that was a discussion between Kevin and I, was
Yeah.
it's not about being mainstream. It's about
Yeah.
finding our small little corner of the world where, I think on a small scale, you can really do a big change
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
with every student that comes through.
Yeah.
And yeah, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I think, what makes us different from cram schools, I think the moment you walk into the space, you
You'll-
would
you'll
realize,
feel it.
like,
Sure,
okay, this doesn't look like a cram school.
Yeah, yeah.
So just, not only the physical, but obviously the emotional aspect of things and the
Yeah.
spiritual level of things. I think with Caroline, for example, we had a student that she taught writing with for how long now?
Over a year now.
Over a year.
Yeah, one student.
But I wanted you to like mention the book publishing.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
so
let's have it.
My one of my like a big success story for me is one of my
Okay.
students. She came to me and she wanted to write more, and this is where it's like I'm really grateful the family kind of found me, because the student had that inside her heart already that she likes to write.
Yeah.
She just kind of needed some guidance to be directed towards
To focus the energy.
To focus, yeah, like what's a completed story? How do
Yeah.
you do it? How do you edit? Stuff like that. And at the end of like about a 4-month process of writing a short story and editing it and all these things, her mom came back to me with a published
Wow.
version of it.
That's
and
incredible.
she actually went into Canva and like
Okay.
made images for it,
Okay.
like because it was a story about a spelling bee, and she made flyers, and it was just the cutest thing ever. But it felt amazing for her to have had such a like emotional connection to the story that
That's
she put so
beautiful.
much effort into
Uh-huh.
it, and it's like actually published. And I have her little
You have a
booklet of a
physical copy
short
of this.
short story
Wow.
now from her, and that was like, gosh, I
Yeah.
can't.
And how old was she?
She's 11.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
She's a 5th grader right now.
Yeah.
Parents must be super happy with that.
Yeah, I think so. And I think she's already working on her next one, and
Yes.
she's already like, I don't think that story was that exciting. I want to make it more
I can make it
exciting.
better.
I can make it better. And
Whoa.
I was like, perfect. It's just about
Okay.
doing it. Like, writing is never about
Yeah.
having the perfect story and then
Mm-hmm.
you're like done writing forever. It's just about doing it again and again and again. And,
Okay.
Yeah.
and it's teaching students that the process is the fun, not only.
Yeah.
It's cool that
Yeah.
we have that finished result
Yeah.
in our hands to
Yeah.
kind of like feel good about, but something about the process what clicked for her, that
Okay.
she's already now on her 2nd story, and that to
She's
me
hooked.
is like
Yeah,
yeah,
she's like,
that's
let's go.
that's
Yeah.
it. Like I can imagine her being a writer in the future.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
and I think that's what really fills our cup with
Yeah.
what we're doing,
Okay.
and that's like, who knows where this is gonna take her, right? She doesn't have to become a writer.
She doesn't.
But maybe it'll come out, as a screenwriter, or like even as a copywriter, or like as a marketing specialist. Like who
Yeah.
knows where that story idea, but that base of having that confidence, of having that, oh, I've done something, and now even having the drive to improve it, right? The motivation to us is what really sets, like, I think a happy kind of endeavor apart.
Okay.
And I have an example as well with a student that is a photography.
Yes.
He wants to be a photography major
Yes.
in college, and
Okay.
he already has a lot of photos, and he's had one exhibition under his belt. And because we had the space, I'm like, hey, why don't we put another exhibition on for you with your newest work and stuff like that? And basically, we provided the space, and I just said, okay, show me what you can do, right? And every step of the way, if you stuck on something, or hey, I need you to notice this thing, I need you to like pay attention to the marketing, I need you to make sure like the prints are at this quality or whatever. But a lot of it was, hey, how are you going to price your products, right? How are you going to price your art? And that's one of the weird things as an artist
Yeah,
or as a
for sure.
creator.
It's
Like,
tough. Yeah.
how do you decide how much the thing you love or you make is worth?
Yeah.
But then there's the real aspect of things, which is how much did it cost you to print this photo and
Yeah, of
frame
course.
it and get it shipped here?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then that's not even including your physical labor.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so let's price that in. And now that you have a price, is it reasonable? Do you feel good about it?
Yeah.
Right. That's a skill that he can learn and take with him to the rest of his life.
That's awesome.
And putting up that exhibition, what kind of tools do you need? What kind of hooks do you need? How much time do you need to prepare? He even made postcards for it. How do you do the marketing? It's like those are the kind of skills that he can take with him anywhere in life,
Very
right?
cool.
And
Yeah.
once he's in college, even beyond college, if he has a gallery, he can go talk to them. He knows how to negotiate, and that to me is the kind of teaching that we want to do the outside of classroom
Outside
teaching.
of the box stuff.
Yeah,
right?
and because we have the space, this is the kind of commitment to each student that we can afford to make.
Yeah.
that
small classes, very,
exactly,
very, very, very one-to-one.
we can really like work on boosting them up and boosting their confidence, and also like encouraging them to try something that they didn't feel that
Yeah.
they could do before,
Okay.
and be sort of a mentor to them of like, hey, did you notice that your, you know, the flyer is like lagging behind or something like that, and what's the messaging of that you're
Yeah.
trying to get? What's the kind of people you want here? He ended up actually getting approached by a photography magazine,
Really?
and
Yeah.
Wow.
they did a special issue
Wow.
of his art,
That's amazing.
and that was the coolest thing. We also have that at ACTA.
No, actually,
of
just
course,
today,
Yeah.
today, he messaged me and says, "Hey, I got my first contract."
Wow.
So
This
he-
kid's 17.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so he's got his first contract.
Yeah.
This kind of art, I think, platform or website will sell 5 of his pictures, and basically it's like a commission-based thing. But you know,
At
that's just
17.
amazing that
Yeah.
you did that on your own.
Yeah.
I have no credits in that, because it was just him following that experience and doing that,
That's beautiful.
right? And
I
that
love
to
it.
us is what it's all about.
It sounds like nurturing like the individuality of each person
Yeah.
it seems to be a big part of it, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so cool, man. I love
That's
that.
a good way to put it. I would say
Yeah.
that's kind of like the consequence of if you make, let them have fun,
Okay.
right? And kind of
Yeah.
like find their own identity.
Because they need to know. They need to know, like you were saying that you started to read when it was a topic you liked,
Yes.
right? And that's super important because I also didn't read that much through high school and stuff because it was like, hey, read this book and then write a report, and you're like, I don't like the book,
Yeah.
and I hate writing reports. And you just kind of like half-ass. Well, I know you guys didn't. I know you guys did.
No, I did. In high school, I did.
I would
Yeah.
just kind of
I'm right there
half-ass it
with
all.
you.
Yeah. So I was like, but then, I'd come out here and, I'd kind of learn the language, and then, you open a business and or you do like a YouTube channel or a podcast or something, and it's just like that one thing that you really love, like the audio and the video and stuff. You just kind of like, I could watch videos and read articles about that like all day.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
How to make the restaurant better, how to improve your marketing, and then the cool thing is when you have your own business, you can implement it like right away. It's not like, hey, I'm going to read this book. Need another one? Yeah.
Sure.
Sure. Yeah.
Thank
okay.
you.
And it's not like I'm just going to implement. It's not like this is just a theory thing. It's just I'm going
Yeah.
to implement this. Hey, you know what? I'm going to try this tomorrow. That's pretty cool.
But
I love that.
I love about what
Yeah.
that process, suddenly it doesn't feel hard.
It's not
Suddenly
hard.
it
Yeah.
becomes so easy to be
Yeah.
spending hours on like on your laptop searching up these topics.
Yeah.
Like I'm like searching up Reddit 2016
Yeah.
forum posts about something like how
Yeah.
to do this or how to do that, and it just, once you feel like you're in alignment, it becomes so much
cool.
easier, and
Yeah.
I think the resistance becomes a lot
Yeah.
less too, and I
Yeah.
think that's I had a lot of questions like, why am I resisting law school so much? Why
Yeah.
am I resisting this path? Why, I know logically I can do it. Logically
Sure.
I can accomplish this thing, but
course.
something inside doesn't feel aligned. And so I hope that like us as teachers and like ACTA is a space where students can come and like be allowed to
Okay.
ask those questions
Yeah.
and find where is my least resistance, where is the things that really light that fire inside my heart that I
Okay.
really want to learn more about.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah. I'm going to bring up some pictures here. We'll kind
Yeah,
of, we're
sure.
going, rapid fire through some pictures here. So let's go. Boom.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
That's the artist, right?
Hyunju.
That's
Yeah.
Hyunju.
Okay, cool. I
Yeah.
thought so.
So this is from her. She did a group exhibition this year
Mm-hmm.
in Taipei, and we didn't expect. Oh, sorry, we didn't expect to see her in Taipei, and it was literally like a year later. And so this was us visiting her group exhibition, and she had a free day. We got to show her around Taipei a little bit because I think it was her first time in Taipei.
Oh, that's
and then
so cool.
we were like, hey, we want to show you the space that we were considering doing an exhibit for you. This was in July, I believe. And so we showed her the space, and Kevin and I were like, one day we would love to have a gallery exhibit for you here. And she was like, okay, let's do it this year.
Okay.
And we're like,
Let's go.
We just kind of looked at each other like, oh,
She's like,
Okay.
I'm ready now. I'm ready now. Let's go.
And that taught us a lot about
Yeah.
like why are we trying to plan things ahead of time?
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
do it.
Yeah.
You know, and I
love
think
that.
even though we took a leap of faith with ACTA, we still we still sometimes feel hesitant or fearful of like doing a big thing.
Yeah.
That doesn't go away.
It doesn't
Yeah.
go
That's
away.
not gonna go away.
You
Yeah.
think it will, and it doesn't.
Yeah.
It doesn't go away. So
Beautiful.
she definitely like reminded us to just do it.
Yeah.
Basically.
And I wanted to add, like, as much as
I think this is the same, right?
Same
Okay,
artist,
keep
That's
yes.
going,
last
keep going.
year.
Yeah. Okay.
as much as the exhibition helped my student for the photography, it also helped us because that was like a dress rehearsal for this one too. Because we know, okay, how many rails do we need if we're gonna, like, all the logistics, right? And so I think we also learn a lot
Yeah.
from
Yeah.
the kids, and I think that's also what we try to get out of our own experience, because it's work, but how do you get more out of your work?
Yeah.
Yeah.
love
And
that.
she taught me a lot about like her dedication to her art. Like she only became more of a professional artist in the last 10 years.
Yeah.
She was actually, raising her kids.
Nobody
and
knows as much as you think they know, right? They're just like, hey, this is what I did. Yeah.
No, and
cool.
she only like really started taking it professionally in the last 10 years. And I was asking her about her art because I love to paint as well,
Yeah,
but I just do
beautiful.
watercolor. And she was like, I spend about 8 hours a day, and that's also her studio,
Okay.
just painting there.
Okay.
And she's working on many pieces at once, but
Amazing.
she's just like, I'm painting every single day.
Okay.
And that really brought like, doing the work, the beauty of doing the work
Yeah.
and seeing the fruits of your labor in a
love
lot of
that.
ways.
Yep,
And so, yeah, she
So
taught us a
cool.
lot about that.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I got a few more, so let's go.
For sure.
Oh,
There's your tango.
Yeah,
Your
that's
Yes.
the tango event.
Tango.
Okay.
That was with Winnie, and funny enough, she actually approached me. This was on October 30th,
Yeah.
but she approached me on October 14th.
Okay.
She's like, I want to do this.
Let's go. Let's do it now.
Let's
Let's
do
do
it.
it.
And I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, you sure about it? Like, yeah, okay, then let's do it. And
That's
they
the
pulled it
best.
off, and that was
Beautiful.
amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So cool. Next one.
Yeah, this is the critical
reading.
reading.
Yeah,
Yep,
tell
a
me.
lot of this was like back then
Last
when we
year.
just started
Okay.
with the reading classes. A lot of it was, how do we make it engaging? And it was an experimental process. I think like what I learned a lot from this is, if you feel that energetic misalignment, it's your body and your mind your heart honestly giving you feedback, right? And
Okay.
you have to try, you have to keep trying, but when you hit on something that you really resonate with in the format that you resonate with, it could really make a difference.
Yeah.
And,
So,
yeah.
just a little bit of context about what Kevin is talking about. We last year were working on something called Ready, with Kevin.
yep.
Okay.
And Ready was just the critical reading class with just writing class.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And we didn't have a space at that time, so we were kind of working with another like cram school, like for a
Gotcha.
space or like doing it at home.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Well, that's
and-
how everyone starts.
Yeah,
for sure.
absolutely.
Yeah.
But it was kind.
It was hard.
It was hard.
It's hard to not be able to have your own vibe.
Yeah.
Yeah,
When
and
people
it-
come in like, whoa, this is nice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. You're
Yeah.
not in control of the vibe, which
Yeah.
is a huge thing.
very
But we actually didn't know that until we started running the space.
Nobody does. Yeah.
Nobody
yeah.
knows what, like, and there's a lot of resistance and a lot of like walls and obstacles. And I mean, I think there were definitely some small successes and small wins last
Sure.
year for sure. But it was like a big learning that I think we were too narrow with our vision, which
Yeah.
is kind of funny to say.
Yeah.
We were too narrow with
Mm-hmm.
what we were thinking we could do. And then once we really broadened it into a container that really caught creative learning,
Yeah.
which was ACTA, it's just taken off.
You misjudged how much people would enjoy this. Yeah.
And how much we needed
And how much
that.
you enjoyed it.
Yeah, not even
yeah.
the people. It's just what is it that we can do together?
Yes.
Because I think Ready with Kevin was so much on me that it was kind of throwing us out of balance.
Gotcha.
For sure.
Yeah.
I was kind of more support, but
Yeah.
I mean, I was happy to be supporting, but it just wasn't like,
Gotcha.
it didn't encapsulate, like, there's no way to put D&D in there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
get some D&D going. What are we doing?
Exactly.
All right, next one. This was a really kind of a cool, unique thing that I thought that anyone knew. Is that cool or
Yeah. So
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
is so with college essay writing,
Yeah.
we also
Yeah.
do a little bit of that.
Okay.
Right now we are working with another company for
Yeah.
college admissions aspects, but
That's huge here.
yeah. So like this the picture that I use to kind of explain why essays are so important.
Yeah,
Okay.
the
Right?
writing.
If you look at all the things on there, you have your SATs, you have your alumni interviews, you have extracurriculars, you have additional information, and then you have race, ethnicity, life experiences, leadership, teacher recommendation, and awards. Okay, so that's everything on the picture, right? The teacher recommendations is out of your power. It's just what the teacher writes,
Yeah.
right? Well, how do you show your awards? You have your activities and awards section. You can mention those.
Okay.
Your SATs, you're going to show them just as a number. But then everything else, leadership, your life experiences,
Yeah.
your background, your identity, your race, your additional information, your extracurriculars and activities, and like all of those things are only demonstrated through your essays.
Okay.
Which is how you tell your stories, right? And so, how do you see yourself? How do you recognize what are the things that are interesting about yourself? What are the things that you are interested in, and how do you package that in a way that is, attractive or like interesting for the readers?
Essentially, like the key point of college admissions is so much about how do you tell your story.
Yeah,
It's so important.
That's it.
Again, it goes back, I think, to the communication.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Yeah. It's even like here with a job interview,
Yeah.
sometimes people, they'll come in and they'll just have this great resume, and then you talk to them and they just have no communication skills.
Yeah.
And you're just like, oh man, this guy
This is
got a great resume, but I don't know if I can have that. That's
Yeah.
tough. You got to be able
Yeah.
to tell me, something's wrong. Sometimes people,
Yeah.
if you say, okay, you train them and they're like, oh, you got it? Yeah. You sure? Yeah. Okay. Tell it back to me. And they'll kind of be like,
yeah. Like so much of it is
Lost.
a
Yeah.
vibe check, right? At
Yeah.
the end of the day, when
Yeah.
especially in college admissions, when everybody's grades are like top level.
Yeah. Yeah.
At the end, it's
4.0
like a
is all
vibe
over.
thing,
Yeah.
right? How do I want to meet this kid for lunch or for coffee? I'm really actually curious. Like, what are the go-to or your favorite questions to ask people that come for your job interviews?
I usually try to get them to, just to tell a little bit about themselves, tell some of their hobbies and stuff like that. I like to ask about their experience, but I also like to ask them why they left their last job. And, and sometimes people are like, oh, the last boss was a fucking asshole. I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah, so let me just, okay, well, we'll let you know. It's kind of crazy. And sometimes they'll be like, oh, it was just too far. And, I was struggling, my grades or whatever. So I just try to get them to talk as much as possible, because when they're in the kitchen or in the front, they really need to be able to talk.
Right.
Yeah.
Like sometimes there's a miscommunication, and then, someone turns a TV off or something, and then the news blows up, right? And it's kind of like, it's crazy, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, something small can be so huge
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
a service business.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy. So
Yeah.
I try to just get them to talk as much as possible. And when I do it with my wife also, she talks a lot, right? And I have to be like, hey, nudge her. I'm like, let them
talk,
talk.
yeah.
Just let them talk until they're finished, right?
Yeah.
And then just kind of like poking the bear a little bit, like poke. Okay, now give me some more info.
Yeah.
So for me, the key is always just keep talking.
Yeah.
Keep talking, keep telling me stuff, because then, I like this, I don't like that, and my, mostly asking about their experience and their jobs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And sometimes the more they talk, you get more of an accurate sort of representation, I think, of this person, right? Whereas if, they have a killer resume, and sometimes people can be almost overqualified, like they'll come in the kitchen. And this happened to us. We started, like, when you guys are super young, we started the restaurant I think at 28, right? So we would hire people, and anybody that was older than us, they'd be like, 小朋友你不知道. You kids, you don't know. You don't know shit,
Yeah.
kids. You're just
Yeah.
a kid. You don't know shit. I'll run the kitchen. And I'm like, whoa, take it easy. This is my kitchen,
Yeah.
So yeah, it was pretty crazy. Yeah.
Wow.
So just my key is always just get them talking, and
Yeah.
just keep talking. You throw something out there and just keep talking.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I do. Yeah. Got a couple more pictures.
for sure.
The digital detox.
Yeah.
I love that idea, because I think that's sorely needed in society right now.
Yeah.
Because everybody's just kind of like,
I
zombie
know.
mode. Yeah.
We're just
digital detox.
It's new, right? Newish.
Yeah.
Newish,
So
yeah.
honestly, this was something that I was inspired, ironically, by a video on Instagram of people doing digital
that's
detox
amazing,
while I was
yeah.
scrolling, doom scrolling.
Yeah.
But I saw someone doing it, and I'm like, wow, that's a great idea. Like,
Yeah.
I want it for
course it
myself,
is,
so
yeah.
let's do it. We have the space. Just book out a time. It's a bi-weekly thing every Sunday.
Oh, it's wow. Okay,
and
okay,
just
okay.
2 to 6, 4 hours. You come anytime and basically do anything. Just put your phone in the phone jail.
Okay.
Yeah, so at the front we have a little phone jail.
That's
Where
cool.
people
Yeah.
have to turn in their phone.
I love
mean,
it.
we allow people to take photos.
Sure,
You know,
yeah,
people
of
want
course,
to
of
take.
course.
People meet each other, or they want to exchange
Exchange
socials.
line and all that.
Line.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's like, okay, fine. But for the most part, it's like no Instagram, no Facebook, no
That's
scrolling
awesome.
on anything. Just be present. And what's been really cool is that our own friends have just taken this as a time to hang out with us.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
then they'll bring like friends of theirs that we don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then we also put the event up on AccuPass. And
Yeah.
so then
Oh,
random
wow.
people
Okay, wow.
who see the event on AccuPass
That's
come.
like a ticket thing, right? Okay.
Yeah.
I mean,
No,
it's-
zero
it's
ads,
free.
zero
Okay.
cost.
Yeah.
It's totally free.
We're
Just
totally,
didn't know
come.
that.
it's
Okay.
totally free.
Yeah.
We just come. We it's for. I mean,
Yeah, it's for
even
ourselves.
Even if no one shows up, Kevin and I are there.
Just
hanging.
2 to 6.
I love it.
Just
Okay.
hanging
Yeah.
out. I bring my sketchbook, or we bring our journals or something like
Yeah.
that, and we're just
Okay.
like we do a digital detox. But
beautiful.
Yeah.
usually at least one person comes, and then we
Okay.
end up having like a really intimate like,
Yeah,
hangout
Like
with
two
one
on one
person.
conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah, it ended up becoming so funny. It ended up becoming a coffee hand pour competition.
Yeah,
So
one time, yeah.
we brought our hand pour coffee. Our friend Winnie brought her hand pour coffee. Roger, our DJ friend, brought his hand pour
Yeah.
coffee.
Okay,
And we
okay.
ended up all trying all these different coffee beans, and we were so caffeinated.
That's
by the
awesome.
end of it.
Yeah.
I had hand pour a couple years ago for the first time
Yeah.
because I'm not like a massive coffee guy, and then the first time I had like really good beans and really good hand pour, it was like whoa.
Whoa.
Whoa, okay,
It's
this is good.
It
yeah.
went
It's like this
From-
hearty,
yeah.
like meaty sort
Yeah.
of flavor.
Yeah.
You know, as opposed to just 7-Eleven,
Yeah, it went from
Starbucks.
I get
1080,
it.
1080p to 4K.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, even 720p,
And,
right?
and then
yeah.
our friend Roger will
Yeah.
come, and
Beautiful.
he's been leaving his DJ set
Yeah.
at our
like
place,
a
like a
whole pioneer
whole.
DJ
Oh, that's
thing.
And so
Cool.
then he'll do like chill vibes, DJ. Like he's just practicing DJing.
That's
Yeah.
And so then we
beautiful.
have people just at the big table drinking
Just chilling.
coffee and,
Yeah.
and talking and chilling.
That's
I'll
so
bring board
cool.
games sometimes,
That's
but
awesome. I love
Roger will
board
be.
game. Let us know about the next board game night. We love it.
Oh,
yeah,
awesome!
yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
a huge fan.
Yeah.
We have a piano there. It's
Yeah.
like my childhood piano. And
Yeah.
it's
That's
just turned
awesome.
into a very expensive cabinet that
Okay.
then, I rescued basically
That's awesome.
from my grandma's place, and now
That's
it's there.
awesome.
And during one of the detox, someone brought a trumpet. Roger was DJing, and then Winnie plays the piano, and they just start jamming.
Oh, that's so
Yeah.
cool.
And to us, that's amazing. That's what we
what's
live
up.
for.
Yeah. Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. Let me finish these last
Yeah,
two here
for
quick.
sure.
An open book club.
Yeah. So this is still a dream, right?
Okay.
Right now, this is
No,
still
To be
a vision.
honest, it's not real.
It's not happening right now.
Yeah.
And this is part of the process of like, okay, we put something out
Yeah.
there and see what
Yeah.
Yeah.
catches, right? And digital detox is one of those things that caught
That's
the
so
attention
cool.
and it works. And open book club, we're still looking for people that want to do it, right?
Yeah.
I want to do it, but it's kind of hard to like, are we reading the same book for a long term, or are we reading different books? Like that kind of logistical things, right?
Gotcha.
But I think this is part of that experimental process of like, what's going to
Yeah.
work? We don't know, but it's
Gotta just
it's
throw
along
it,
the line.
try
of something.
everything.
Yeah.
We came up with
You
a
have to.
lot of different ideas, and
Keep it.
essentially it stemmed from what do we want
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
do? Do
Yeah.
we want to attend our own events?
Yeah.
And so Open Book Club was one of them, and it
Beautiful.
hasn't caught on yet.
Yeah.
No, you know what? That's how business is. Sometimes things pop, sometimes
Yeah.
they don't.
Yeah.
You just keep going and they will eventually, yeah.
We've been collecting people who say they're interested in a book club, and we'll attack it again next year.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Also, I'm looking at the date there. So
It's a little older.
In the summer, TM was super slow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
that
I don't know
might
if you
be
guys
also the
noticed that.
problem.
Yeah. It was like in the summertime. That's when we were like, oh my gosh, we should go do something or like close.
Close.
Let's just close.
I
yeah.
know.
Yeah, but then we have full time people, and we're like, okay, so let's figure out how we can just like break even and then
Right.
like leave.
Yes.
For a
Right.
bit. Yeah. 'Cause
Yeah.
that's like all the international schools. Everyone's going home or traveling.
Yep.
Yeah.
All the Taiwanese in this area, they're all traveling.
Yeah.
Everybody's traveling. So Tianmu is like, it's a very slow time. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
But it
huge.
comes with the
Yeah.
experience, you know?
Yeah, for
It
sure.
really just comes with experience.
Yeah.
Beautiful. I got one more, and then
Yeah.
the yoga. I had to talk about the yoga. Yes.
Yeah, so I'm a certified yoga teacher. Actually, Kevin is a certified yoga
Is he
teacher.
really?
Yeah.
Oh,
and
that's
he got his
awesome.
certification before I did.
Oh.
Funny enough, I actually started yoga before she did. I'm like, hey, you got to try this thing out.
Oh, you're like, you gotta
Yeah.
try yoga. Oh man.
Yeah.
That was because I took a gap year right after college.
So cool.
For me, I was like, hey, I kind of want to experience life without someone telling me there's a deadline or like I have to.
You gotta have it.
I got to
Gotta have it.
experience that for myself.
Everyone
and
should.
When I was in that gap year, I'm like, yoga sounds kind of nice. Like, let's try it. Like it started as just working out and it's a nice stretch.
Yeah, yeah.
And then
stretch
got
is
into
good.
when you're in that baby, what's that pose? The
Oh, child's pose?
final one.
Oh, Shavasana.
Shavasana, you're like, wow, that's like deep rest. And so I got her into it. I became a yoga instructor, 200-hour YTT, but I did it mostly for myself. Just
Okay.
kind of like I wanted to learn more about the philosophy.
Not the idea of
it.
like, I want to teach this.
yeah,
or like, I want to know this.
I just wanted to get deeper with a deeper relationship with it.
Okay.
And so, yeah.
I've done dance since I was super young. I did ballet. Like I did Russian ballet.
I love it.
For a little bit.
Bust a move. Let's see it. Yeah.
No, right now. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's been a while. And then I ended up doing like jazz and then also like contemporary dance in high school.
So
And
cool.
so then when I went into the yoga studio, and there's a certain type of yoga style called vinyasa flow.
Oh.
And you learn a sequence of poses and then you do them as like one breath, one movement, and it
Oh.
almost feels like a dance.
Wow.
And it just like resonated so deeply with me
Interesting.
that I fell in love with it, and then I ended up doing my 200-hour training in the studio that I learned it from. It was a bit more of a half of like half on the philosophy side, and then a bit more than Kevin on the how do you actually structure a class and teach
Okay.
it.
Yeah.
And so I think I got a little bit more on the structuring a class and teaching it. I ended up working at a gym in U.S. for
beauty.
like
That's great
almost
experience.
a year,
Nice.
basically, and teaching vinyasa flow and like
That's
yin
cool.
yoga and stuff like that. And then when I came here,
Yep. Let's have it up.
I know it's not my career, but I love teaching yoga.
Gotta have it. Yeah.
I love
Gotta enjoy your
crafting.
life.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
love crafting those classes. I
Okay.
love practicing those classes before I teach them.
Mm-hmm.
And I just kind of wanted to still do it somehow. And we have a really beautiful, large open space in the back of ACTA. So ACTA is kind of split into two pieces.
Okay.
Where the front space is like a small classroom area. We have a middle where it's the office, and then actually right next to the office is a long hallway, which opens into a really large back area.
Oh, I haven't
That's
seen the
actually
back.
hidden. Yeah, it's hidden a bit. And then there's plenty of room for at least up to, without the big table, maybe 6 students.
Oh no, with the big table
Oh.
6. If you move the big table, I was like 10.
Yeah, at least 10 to
Yeah.
12 or 13 students can fit comfortably in the back classroom.
Yeah.
And
Nice.
I was like, well, I might as well just teach yoga because I want to.
Yeah.
And
There you go.
so
That's
that,
it.
oh yeah, there it is. And so
Yeah.
we did this. I'm not going to lie, because school has gotten really busy, and so October it kind of fell off because I was having like 1 to 2 students, but more and more people have been asking about it recently. So I think
Awesome. I think yoga is quite popular.
starting January we'll relaunch it again. But for now, just
Beautiful.
kind of let it peter off to the end of the year. But
Yeah.
I have a lot of love for yoga and teaching. So
Beautiful. Beautiful.
yeah.
We are also super open to anyone out there hearing this
Yeah.
call.
Who wants to teach yoga at
Yeah.
ACTA?
Or just teach anything.
Teach
like,
anything, yeah.
Come through if you have some idea, if you want to have fun. Like, we just love to,
Imagine what could be and
Right.
try to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Give it a. No, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's funny because sometimes when I do the podcast, people are like, oh, you know what? We're gonna talk for an hour. I don't think we can do an hour. We're like an hour 15 already. So
Oh,
that's
shoot.
crazy. Time flies, right? Do you guys have anything you want to say? I mean, in the description below, we have your Instagram and stuff like that,
Okay.
so people can definitely go check it out. But do you guys have anything you want to add before we call it and you guys get some dinner?
Yeah, I mean, we just love meeting people. You know,
Yeah.
it's not. We're not even trying to sell something. Like it's just like
What fills our cup.
We
Yeah.
really love connecting with people
Yeah.
that want to play. Like that want to. You know, if they have an idea, they need a space. We'd love to be that for
Okay.
them. You know, we have the container, and like whether it's yoga, whether it's whatever. Like I even imagine this place being. You know, we can have wine classes here if
Cool.
someone wants it.
I love
right?
it.
I have a high school classmate. She's currently an authenticator for like luxury bags and watches
Okay.
at an auction in New York.
Okay.
But when she's back, she's planning on doing a luxury bag and watch authentication class
That's
with
cool.
champagne in the afternoon.
Beautiful.
It's in the talks, but we don't know.
Okay.
You know, like this.
Try everything.
You know, the world's our oyster, and I just want to put it out there as an invitation.
Yeah,
Okay,
I think I just
awesome.
want to just let people know that there's like a space like this where we're doing something a little bit different. It's based around creative learning, and our doors are open for a lot of things. If you want to talk to us just about
Awesome.
what's out there, or about classes, or about events, like it fills our cup, honestly, to
Yeah.
work with people and to connect. That's why we do it. That's it. And so.
Beautiful. I love the
yeah.
fill your cup. I love that. That's cool.
Yeah.
I've never heard that. Thank you guys so
Thank
much
you
for
so
coming.
much,
Thank you.
Eddie.
Appreciate it. Yes. Let's get you guys fed. Yeah.
Yeah, thank
All right.
you so
Thank you guys for
much.
Thank
watching
you
the
so much.
podcast. And check out the Instagram and all the stuff. They got the link tree. Everything looks really good. And we'll see you guys next time.